promise you this book will be finished and the world will love it and people will see it and it will be done in the way you want it done. And we have never flagged on that promise.
A loving tribute from a parent to the last project of her dying son, a delightful children's book written by a young man who had only begun to live. 10 minutes after the hour, and we have a story for you now that speaks volumes about the power of one family's love. Our medical editor, Dr. Tim Johnson, profiles a young writer whose life ended far too soon and how the book that was his dream lives on, thanks to a promise that his family made.
Whenever I feel like crying, I smile hard instead. I turn my sadness upside down and stand it on its head.
Barbara Saltzman never gets tired of hearing that verse from the children's book, The Jester Has Lost His Jingle. For her, those words capture the essence of the fable and its author and illustrator, her son David.
Everything that he wrote and drew was imbued with that spirit of making people feel good about themselves and letting them know they had the power to turn their lives right side up and to turn their sadness upside down.
According to all who knew him, David Saltzman was a very special human being. He was smart and talented, funny and passionate.
David Charles Laertes Saltzman, graduating cum laude.
An honor student in high school in California, David quickly made his mark when he went to Yale.
Every college is shaped in some way by the student leadership. And David was certainly one of those people who set the tone for the college just in the way he participated, in the way his peers liked him and related to him. So he was one of the energizers for us.
At Yale, David double majored in English and art. And during the summer before his senior year, he began work on a children's book about a jester who awakens to find that the world has lost its sense of humor. So he sets off to find it.
The jester in many ways is David. He drew him to look like him. He has the same infectious spirit and determination. And by getting the book to people, in my view, it's a way of getting David's spirit to people, that they get to know him through the book.
However, when David returned here to Yale for his senior year, he received some terrible news. When he went to the doctor to check out a persistent cough, he found out that he had advanced Hodgkin's disease. All of a sudden, his book project became a matter of great personal urgency.
For the senior, best exemplifying the qualities of courage and strength of character and high moral purpose, David Charles Saltzman.
David underwent chemotherapy and radiation, and the cancer was in remission when he graduated with honors in 1989. But it soon came back, and David returned home to California. That October, he wrote in his journal, "If the worst does happen to me, I want that book finished and in the hands of those who love me."
He was a little concerned that he might not finish it. And we said, David, you work on it, and we promise you this book will be finished and the world will love it and people will see it and it will be done in the way you want it done.
David died the following spring, just before his 23rd birthday. But his family was determined that his book would live. After being told by publishers that the book was too expensive to produce, they took out a second mortgage and decided to publish it themselves, even traveling to Hong Kong to supervise the printing.
David's death was the most horrible thing that ever happened to me. It was extremely painful for me, and my way of dealing with it was to run away, just not think about it, not deal with it. Barbara, however, was so concerned about getting the book published, so I reluctantly went along with it. And I think the turning point in my life was when Maurice Sendak read the book and loved the book and wrote one of the most moving afterwords I've ever read.
Maurice Sendak, the esteemed children's book author and artist, wrote, "It's difficult to remember all the bright, promising youngsters. It is easy to remember David. David's jester soars with life." The Saltzmans recently returned to Yale, the setting which inspired David and where he is still very much remembered. And David quickly comes alive to the children who love his book, like 8-year-old Maureen Daly.
Well, he just sits by your sides and tries to make you feel better by making you laugh.
That's good.
It actually works.
It does work. Did it help you yesterday?
And soon everybody started giggling.
everybody started yelling.
And nothing reflects David's belief in the healing power of laughter like the faces of the children being treated for cancer at the Yale Children's Hospital.
He died too early, but he had a wonderful 22 years, and the book, I think, carries on what he believed in, and when I see it helping people, I can't tell you how wonderful it makes me feel.
This is an absolutely wonderful book. We've enjoyed reading it, and it's particularly poignant because he fell into that very, very, very small minority of people who really don't beat Hodgkin's disease. His tumor was quite large when he was diagnosed.
His mom is the editor of the entertainment editor of the Los Angeles Times. His dad's a professor of journalism at USC. His brother Michael, that you saw, is the executive producer of Murphy Brown. So they have access, I guess, to the publishing business, but they had to put a second mortgage on their house, borrow $50,000 from friends to get that book published. And his dad says it'll be a success if they don't lose their house, but a very worthwhile tribute to their son.
The Jester Who Lost His Jingle. Great book. Pick it up.
We'll be right back.
A Los Angeles woman who has made it her mission to help sick children hang on to hope has taken that mission one step further. Our man Mike found her at Children's Hospital today.
Our story begins quite removed in a castle far away.
Barbara Saltzman has read this book.
Thousands. I can't even begin to count how many. It's hiding inside of me. That's right.
It's the story her son David wrote as a senior project at Yale. It was published, and Barbara has dedicated her life to sharing it, usually to kids who have seen more hospitals than backyards, like Malcolm, who's fighting cancer as hard as he can.
And he walked his funny walk.
And this book and the story and just the whole feeling and spirit of optimism behind it helps kids and families recognize that we're all working together and that we're going to get through this.
And we are very thrilled.
At Children's Hospital, Barbara is delivering more than her son David's book, The Jester Has Lost His Jingle. Now the Jester's mom is donating the next step, an entire Jester and Pharley Smile cart. Barbara wants every hospital in the country to have one.
So the Jester and Pharley Phund has developed the Jester and Pharley Smile cart so that it can be wheeled to children wherever it's needed throughout the hospital. For he played with life as you play with a toy.
Barbara knows what families go through here. David, the author, her son, died from Hodgkin's disease 11 days before his 23rd birthday. But he left his story.
To make people laugh and fill them with glee.
And his mom is spreading it in as many doses of hope as she can. In Hollywood, Mike Castellucci, CBS 2 News.
That's right.
And now a lesson in generosity as children help other children with gifts of books, toys, and a little moral support. Sophia Choi introduces us to some special hometown heroes.
It's up to us to make a difference. It's up to us to care.
It's a gift from the heart from these children from Lincoln Elementary to these children suffering from cancer at the Miller Children's Hospital in Long Beach. Students read books so others could have books to read and dolls to hold. Each student read thousands of pages in just 1 week.
2,288 pages.
In all, the students read 75,000 pages. In return, Toyota Financial Services helped pay for these Jester and Pharley books and dolls.
The book will give them laughter.
Laughter and more. This doll gave 7-year-old Megan Flynn a unique way to communicate with her doctor.
If he heard the jingles, he knew she couldn't do her bone marrow test, which she called her big back poke. But if she held it very tight and there were no jingles, then he knew it was safe to do her back poke.
I am no longer funny. Barbara Saltzman's son wrote this book. Now she's heading up this literacy and outreach program for children here and everywhere. Thanks to the students at Lincoln Elementary, 35 of these books and dolls were donated this time around, but it's just the start. In fact, this program will be implemented at schools not only throughout Southern California, but throughout the nation. The nearly 200 students who took part at Lincoln also made Get Well cards. These young hometown heroes are now serving as inspiration for other students at their school to do the same. Sophia Choi, CBS 2 News.